Hi everyone, today in this video I'm going to discuss a complex topic related to health, and here the health is involved related to not just physical health but social health, socioeconomic health, um, global health related paradigm. Everything is addressed in this particular reference video that I'm going to use to discuss multiple parameters of health that again is an indicator that something is going wrong with our health and our perceptions of what is true health, balanced health. And because something is growing greatly wrong, this person who is the person who is kind of awakening to what is going wrong with their health is highly stressed out, is going through burnout, is going through depression. So this video was posted online by someone who is a life coach, and for them this was their life coach success story. But unfortunately, I do not believe that this is a success story. And if people continue following these paradigms, a part of the paradigms she suggested for her client were good paradigms, were normal standard paradigms any life coach, therapist, nutritionist might suggest to a person going through some of the challenges that are mentioned in this video. But it is not a complete solution, it is not a comprehensive solution, because a very complex set of challenges related to health is actually and realistically going on with the client. And this girl doesn't have emotional depth to understand the deeper repercussions either of the problems, or she hasn't revealed all the solutions she has brought to the patient, to her client. Like, you can call this person a patient, but he's not a patient of a person like a doctor, but he's a patient who is suffering from many realistic health challenges that need to be resolved by a doctor. But apart from a general medical doctor, this guy's problems can't be just resolved by a doctor. He has a complex set of challenges that needs a higher level resolutions, a step by step resolution, a slow, uh, careful, thought out resolution as well. Whereas the solutions provided to him do not have that slow, careful thoughtfulness present in it. As a result, and also the deeper reflection that is needed to actually resolve his issues, that deeper reflection is also not present in the life coach's strategies, which is just something that the life coach now needs to improve in her work area. And if she's a new life coach, she shouldn't be taking clients of this guy's level of problem extent, because one part of understanding our own journey as whatever profession we choose is to understand what is the depth of the work that we can do, what is the kind of clients, or like if it is a self-owned entrepreneurial business or something like a life coach like business. You need to understand which are the clients you can should be saying yes to, who are the clients you shouldn't be saying yes to if you do not have the qualifications, or for certain kind of clients you might need to have a collaborative work experience area open up, where multiple different kinds of problem resolvers have to be present to actually provide a meaningful solution to a client. So, depending on her capacity to understand what I am going to discuss here, if she finds my video, I don't know whether she'll find it or not. And it is not about this particular life coach as well. This is about anyone who is doing life coach work, therapy related work, because this kind of a client can go even to a therapist to seek help when they are highly stressed out. They can even go to a marriage counselor to work on this issue because this had some marriage component related issue. They can even go to a financial counselor for seeking financial help because this he had financial health related challenges. So he has multiple health related challenges apart from the hidden challenges that are not even addressed by this coach in this post, because firstly because Instagram posts can't always define a big scope related to someone's challenges. Secondly, if she is a good coach, she might have hopefully done other additional strategies. Now it depends how good a coach she is or how bad a coach she is. If she is a bad coach, this is all the strategy she did and that's it. and she is happy with herself, so she thinks she has provided the right solution. Whereas if she is really a meaningful life coach, she will understand that the solution, what I am understanding about this, is something she should understand eventually after practicing all these steps, because all these steps that she has inculcated in the practice to help this man resolve his life issues are steps he needs to take definitely in his life. But these are not the only steps he needs to take in his life. So first look at the video that I have posted as a reference video about the life coach's interaction with her client. And then after watching that post, pause this video, watch that post, and then come back to this video to see what I felt was happening and why I am saying what I have said in this first 5 minutes. So, firstly, let's look at the guy's problem that was understood by the life coach. Because a person can say a lot of problems, but what will be understood by someone who's trying to resolve your problem depends on the depth and capacity of that person to, or the maturity level they hold, or the life experience level they hold to actually resolve your problem issue. So some people have a good level of maturity at a young age, but some people don't. And according to me, uh, what was presented in this Instagram post doesn't show the level of maturity or depth that is needed to resolve this guy's issue, because the person may not even have a good context about how to resolve issues of people with this level problem that this guy is facing. Because not everyone has equal life, not every life coach is meant to cater to clients of different kinds. Like, depending on what is your depth of expertise, only you can work with certain clients, and depending on your less depth in certain areas, sometimes certain clients will be failed by a person if you are not awakened to the depth that is required for the client. Or if you are awakened to the depth that is required but you don't have the capacity to work with them, you will say no to such clients, because saying no is a part of human experience. Everyone needs to understand, and saying the right no, why you're saying the no, understanding the deeper repercussions when you're saying a no, is also a key important healthy life skill. But it is a healthy life skill set not many people develop when they are in a growing economy, when they are in a gain mindset, when they are in a profit mindset, when they are in an immature, unawakened, ignorant mindset about the depth of the human condition related challenges some people can have in their life. Now, firstly, what was the first thing that the post talks about is how this man texted his wife that I can't do this anymore, and the wife replied back that they have a 37 lakh loan amount, housing loan amount, that they still need to pay. And this guy then, likely after having such an incident with his wife, via maybe suggestions of different friends, likely landed up at this life coach's portal to or web page, and went to her to seek help for the problems he has in his life. And the life coach, seeing that text and seeing what she has presented in this video, seems to have focused on two elements related to his health. One related to his physical health symptoms, physical and mental health related symptoms, and second related to his financial health symptoms. And while she has honed in on these three problems that he definitely has, and she has the skill set and maturity to understand he has a problem related to these issues, solutions don't match the depth at which the solutions provided here in this video don't match the depth at which he needs a resolution. Because firstly, if you are stressed out and you tell your wife I can't do this anymore, why will you say that to your wife? You will be saying something like that to your spouse when you are highly stressed out from the fact that the pressure you are feeling of the responsibility you have to take in a relationship with your partner is a responsibility that is not getting equitably shared by your partner. When you go through such a phase in life with a partner, and this man's marriage, looking at all the criteria presented in this video itself, shows that he must be at least in a marriage of 7 to 10 years lifespan. That is the time when, or even a slightly more than 10 years possibly, because he has only 37 lakh loan left, which when I did the EMI calculation, so let's first look at the EMI calculation, then I'll say what I wanted to say. So he was paying a 75k EMI on a housing loan, and that 75k EMI on a housing loan with current rate of interest in India, which is around 8%, 8 to 9% right now. But let's assume this loan was from a decade back, right? So at that time, 7.5 to 8% loan interest rate might have been there. So at that time, when 7.5 to 8% interest loan was there, this house would be at least a 1 crore plus house. And if it was around approximately 1 crore, this housing, then at least 2/3 of the loan has been paid off, which means this must be a marriage of at least 10 to 20 years. Okay. And if he had likely a loan of 30-year loan, then he has paid off at least 20 years of his loan. There's another 10 years left. Now, that is given whatever we can roughly calculate based on this. And he could have had this loan from way before he got married. So that's why because his children's school fees are 30k, and based on that 30k fees, I'm saying that he has at least either one child or two children. And in private schools, these are the fees of schools in possibly Navi Mumbai like area or Mumbai like area, depending on which locality you are sending your kids to school. And it is also highly likely, given the expenses that he is paying for and the fact that the wife has talked about the loan, it means the wife is also financially paying for some of the expenses. So life coach, if he has to resolve a couple's issue and a finance issue of a married couple, also needs to look at what the wife is doing with her finances, which she hasn't also taken into account here. And because 30k seems, if you live in Mumbai, 30k is a lower amount that is getting paid towards children's schooling. Whereas if you live in Navi Mumbai, 30k is a sane amount or a balanced amount, that the whole amount related to children's schooling might be paid by the man. So depending on where he lives, now some of these expenses will have a different implication in their life. Now, if we assume that only the man is paying for all the financial things in his life, and his wife is a housewife and she's paying for nothing at a time, and the man is also feeling heavily overburdened, that I cannot believe that a woman who is a housewife would ever talk about this much loan amount is left if she was a housewife. Because most housewives, when they are very financially dependent on their husbands and they have been housewives entirely throughout the marriage, those kind of women, personality types, are the women who completely blindly trust their husband. My mom was that kind of a housewife. So she never questioned about financial things. The only financial thing she ever questioned was some money that she had earned very briefly for a few months, and when that money was taken away from her bank, she didn't get access to a very minor discretionary income account that she should have had access to. That access was taken away from her. So she was going through a financial coercion or abuse in her marriage. But she only worked for 6 months. Rest of the marriage time, when she didn't work, before the 6 months she worked, after the 6 months she worked, she was completely financially dependent during all those phases on her spouse as well. So, and she was that financially dependent spouse because her mother was also a very financially dependent spouse. But because her father was not financially coercive and he was spending in expenses related to housing, home health, every financial challenge that they had as a family was paid off very easily by the spouse. Or easily enough, because I never saw a financial distress related issues in my grandmother's narrative with her spouse. So and I have always seen my grandfather being very generous with his household related expenses. So both of this in combination led me to believe that when one spouse is earning and that spouse is a fair spouse, they get to spend very equitably and freely for their family's needs. Whereas in contrast, my dad was not like that, so he doesn't spend freely. He has a problems with spending, and he's been that way for a long time, irrespective of what salary he held, what freedom he held regarding the finances he has access towards. So and then he was also financially coercive when he took away even the minor level funds that my mother had access to for a while briefly. But being a housewife who was raised in a family where the man was taking care of a lot of financial obligations, and my mom not being a very greedy gold digger kind of a personality or a money minded personality, she would never complain about except that unfairness that happened. Other than that, and that also she's not a very repeat complainer, so she never complained about one time she has protested about it and then she let it be, because you can't do anything if you are being financially abused by someone. You just have to either tolerate the abuse, work with the abuse, be happy with whatever you have in your life, seek some help about it. But if the right help doesn't arise, again you have to just rescind to whatever is happening in your life, which is what happens to many people. But it also adds to your stress, and it did certainly add to my mother's stress. But she was not sitting and calculating financially, this is my financial obligation, this is this is that, because she doesn't have access to finances. So she's not going to sit and be a financially savvy person calculating, this is my home EMI, this is my home loan. Because when you are abused by a person or dependent completely financially in on your spouse, in both those scenarios, the woman doesn't end up paying anything related to family's financial costs in the direct manner. The only indirect manner in which they might contribute to finances is by working on, if they have been given some finances to pay for the maid, pay for groceries, at that time they are just financially managing the money, but they don't have financial control of the money that comes to them. So those kind of women are not going to text a husband that 37 lakhs is our EMI remaining. So the woman who will be that kind of a woman who texts these kind of messages will be whom? Someone who's educated like me, someone who is taking some financial burden for the family, someone who also, even she is also possibly, the reason why she is sending such a reply like this is she's also not able to manage the stress of what is going on in their life. But because they have this financial obligation, and because some people, some wives are wise wives as well, they also know that they can't quit a marriage simply because they want to quit if they have a lot of financial obligations, a lot of family, and not just financial. This was just a one line answer she provided, but they might have financial obligations, family obligations, children to think about, children's lives to think about. So they can't simply just walk out of a marriage, especially a marriage that might be, at least in my opinion, a 10-year marriage span. Okay, so 10 to 15 years of a marriage has happened. The loans also that they were able to pay off initially, sometimes you may take a 30-year loan, but if initially you have had enough savings, you also pay off a major chunk of the loan by paying in the beginning only some savings. So they could have, instead of, you will pay 75k 30-year loan on a 1 crore home, when every month you are paying 75k. But if you've given some deposit of a few lakhs initially, and you had paid off already, like let's say 1/4 of this amount, they like, you gave 25 lakhs, then the remaining loan will be a shorter duration loan. So that is the most likely thing I feel happened in this couple's case, because most of us are like that. We will pay off as much of the loan as possible in the beginning. We none of us want to be saddled by 30-40 year old loans. So mostly people will pay off a initial amount and have maybe a 20-year loan or something. So, and of the 20 years, 10 years loan has been paid, 10-year, 1/3 of it was paid off, or 1/4 of it was paid off even before they paid the 10-year loan amounts, and now another 10 years of loan amounts are left for them to pay off. Okay, so this is just a financial breakdown. I don't know why I am doing this breakdown, but this is necessary for all couples going through these financial challenges, and also necessary for those couples where, if now let's say something is going on unethically in your workplace, because this guys, let's look at his problems now. Okay, I discussed a little bit of how his expenses are getting used. Majority of his expense, as you see, is let's break down what the life coach has broken down. That 75K of his salary is going for the loan, 30K is going towards children's schooling, 20K is going towards grocery, 20K is going towards car loan, 15K is going for bills, insurances, and miscellaneous expenses. So in 15K, possibly 5K is going for electricity bill, another 5K might be going for different kinds of insurances, and then another 5K the man might be having on hand for him to travel around in a car occasionally, or take a cab when going to work, or eating outside food, snacks. All of this is his expense, and he only has around 5K savings, which is why he is getting a little bit of a stress related to finances as well. Now, what has come up as a health symptom in his life is he's getting heavy acid reflux, which the coach has concluded that it is likely from stress of all the things that he's going through in his life. And when stress is there, and stress, the coach has recommended that he should see, because it's a health issue, she recommended a nutritionist doctor as a practitioner he should go to get the nutrition related health safety parameters that he should follow, so that his acid reflux can be managed via health safe practices, which is a very very excellent suggestion. Because even if our own psychological stress, mental stress about finances, and other life factor related stress are adding to our stress and adding to our acid reflux response, if there are physical things present in our daily lifestyle choices that are impacting our health, those physically harming things, that choices we are making in our life, also needs to be changed. And those physically harmful things, if we didn't take the time to sit and mindfully, whatever I have presented in my other videos also, many people do not have that luxurious time to sit and contemplate on these issues. But while you are not sitting and contemplating, while someone from a healthcare field is contemplating about these issues, you have to go to that healthcare practitioner who has the knowledge about these issues. So if a practitioner like a nutritionist has a knowledge about what health safe foods, if you consume, will reduce your acid reflux issues, should you only be popping a pill for your acid reflux, or should you be popping a pill in combination with lifestyle choices related to food consumption and nutritional challenge related issues that will be resolved when you go to a nutritionist who will give you the adequate nutritional paradigm that you need to follow to balance your health. And then if again the nutritionist is like the right balanced nutritionist, they will not simply tell you take a pill to solve your nutritional challenges. A real good health safe nutritionist's job is to minimize your pill load on your body, which as a pharmacist I understand this. I don't know how many doctors or nutritionists in India or globally understand it conceptually, but conceptually you shouldn't be popping multiple pills inside your body, because of multiple ways in which it can harm your health if too many medication usages are happening. So ideally, for balanced health, every kind of balanced health gets supported the more your body has access to clean, healthy, nutritious food, environment related to environmental, physical and chemical toxins, as well as the emotional environment of your family life, work life. All of these actually technically are stress enhancing or stress reducing factors. How it is a stress reducing factor? Now let's look at that. So if I am taking like 10 pills for different health challenges, what is going to happen is, if in a day I'm taking 10 tablets, the tablets are, out of the 10 tablets, be it a nutritional supplement tablet or a tablet that is a medication for a health issue like acid reflux, at a time point, if I have popped a pill for any of my health challenges, or if you are heavily stressed out and you went to a therapist can give you anti-anxiety medications as well. So like that. And then if he is in his 40s or mid 40s, possibly 40s to mid 40s is possibly his age range, or mid 30s to late 40s might be the age range of this man. So around that time, if you are also getting some other health challenges, because you're eating outside or because of whatever other factors, like you are in a workplace where socializing with workplace clients means you are eating often in the office and eating outside food, whatever it is, that can also, the quality of food you are consuming can also impact your health status in other ways than just simply acid reflux. So you can develop the modern illnesses that people talk about, that people living in modern lifestyle develop, are illnesses like diabetes, illnesses like hypertension, and sometimes people can also start developing organ damage related issues as well. So all of these things are also partly there in the background possibly of this couple, that if he went to the life coach and he already has, let's say, 10 challenges, like I can see at least 10 challenges present in what was presented in this video, and then already you have 10 challenges, and of the 10 challenges this girl has managed to crystallize 2 of his challenges. There are also the deeper challenges that he's going through, challenges that he has spoken about and is evident in this video, and then challenges that is not evident in the material presented in the video, which needs extra digging and extra information, which only if a person is a wise person knows how to ask the right questions, the client also knows how to provide the right answers, then only the actual resolution of those problems will happen. But if you don't do the deeper digging, or the life coach doesn't understand what are the right questions that need to be resolved next, if the client doesn't understand what are the deeper implications of why they are going through this heavy level of stress and burnout and depression, these are the 3 things the client has, the coach has concluded he has: stress, burnout, and depression. But why does he have stress, burnout, and depression? And I will also add, not only are these 3 his problems, he also has marital conflict as a problem. So marital conflict is also there, financial obligation is, financial stress is also there, and finally the thing that she didn't understand or pick up from his challenge is that he has said that apart from the acid reflux problems he's getting, he's waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's also feeling very, so he has, his sleep has reduced, which is a part of burnout, depression related challenge, and stress related challenge will cause you to wake up early in the morning sometime. But there are other things also that will cause you to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that also I will discuss. And then he also has palpitation. Every time he's picking up the phone, he's getting very nervous picking up the phone. Why is that happening? And this is where the life coach didn't do a meaningful analysis of why she's assuming he's stressed out, that's why he's stressed out while picking up the phone, which is not true. I know, guys, at least 90% or 99% of the men I know in my life, they have zero stress about picking up phone call from anyone. Most of the guys I know, they have such high and strong boundaries, and they are so emotionally avoidant or know how to compartmentalize their emotions, that most men I know, if they do not like talking to someone or want to avoid a conversation about something, all the men I know in my personal life and professional life, all they are capable of. The professional life thing will happen what, like let's say you have a co-worker you don't want to interact with, all they will do is, if you are in a meeting, they will not interact with you. If you are in a you want to set up a meeting with your boss, they will not give you the right dates for you to set up a meeting with them, right? That is what they will do if they do not want to interact with you. At the professional, at the personal life, again, if you have friends who do not want to interact with you, what will they do? Even the friends will not just simply pick up your phone if they don't want to talk with you, or they'll say I do not want to talk with you. Or if it is a family member now who you do not want to converse with, or a partner you do not want to converse with, same thing. Either you will give non-committal answers when you're living in the same home with a person. If you're not living in the same home, you're having a phone conversation with a cousin, with a sister, with a sibling, or with a distant cousin, or a wife who works in a different city. In all of those times, a man who doesn't want to communicate with their partner will simply not pick up the phone, will simply have no regrets not picking up the phone, will simply just avoid having a conversation they don't want to have. 90% of the men I know are of this category. Very few men have actual consciousness related issues with saying no to conversations they don't want to have. And those few percentage of men who also have some issues saying no to a conversation, they might get stressed out, but they will not have palpitations when picking up the phone call of someone. So this palpitation, when that is happening, and every time a phone call is, and a man who is a busy man, he is definitely a busy man. A person who has a 1.65 lakh salary in a city like Mumbai is going to be bound to have a more than 8 hour work life, and he's always busy at work. He's going to be a workaholic kind of a person. Then he has a family life, so he's going to be busy with his family obligations. Other than that, like he's doing the groceries means he does take time to do at least the groceries for his family. And then he knows what he's spending in his children's schooling also means he might be somewhat involved sometimes in the schooling related choices and decision making as well. So he seems to be a busy man. So someone who is that busy, firstly, when you are that busy in India, no one encroaches on another person's family life or other things. So if your family knows you're busy, your family is also not going to, if you have good, thoughtful, kind family, they're not going to, obligate you with a phone call when they know you are in the midst of a family life where you are going to have a busy family life because your children are in their tweens or teens, and because you're busy, no one is going to bother also in communicating with each other. So whose phone call is this guy then getting nervous about? The only two kinds of phone calls such a average middle class man in India in a city like Mumbai will get is either if he's having an affair, which I highly doubt that this guy is having, then only you will get palpitations if he had an affair somewhere and he's afraid that his wife will find out about it. That is very, very rare. Again, maybe a few very rare percentage of men, despite having such a busy life, such a fine, and he doesn't even have 5,000 rupees discretionary income. Do you think he will have money to date a woman? He will not. So if he has slept with someone might have trapped in into sleeping with him. Other than that, he is not going to even have a time to have an affair also. So that thing you can cross off the list. Only those men who may have more discretionary income, or those men who are completely not responsible men and have some sexual health related issues that they are working on, they will be the ones who will be the cheating kind of personality. So let's cross it off the list, but that is also one plausible area in which someone will have palpitations when receiving a phone call. But this average middle class man, a normal sane man, a normal average man of Indian society, living in a city like Mumbai, and I have lived in Mumbai, so I'm assuming this is happening in Mumbai because these kind of expenses also run in a city like Mumbai. That's why I'm assuming and saying Mumbai, Navi Mumbai. These are the areas where I have lived. These are the areas, financial obligation related things I understand about. So that's why I'm talking in these terms. And I have worked and I didn't technically work in India with Indian men, but I have family who are Indian men who work in India, who live in Mumbai. I have friends who are like that. So I can, even if I have not walked that path, I do understand the path's journey and the obligations related to that journey, just because I have the capacity to understand it. So I didn't have to walk that path to understand this path that Indian men take in their lives. So, or any other man, this can be another man in a different country also going through these same issues. That's just that instead of lakhs of rupees being or thousands of rupees being their expenses and cultural issues or related to expenses, all of these will be a factor to a man living in US also. It's just instead of rupees, the dollar amount will be there. So this can be a life story of a guy anywhere across the world who's an average guy, who's an average good guy, who's an average responsible guy. This can be the tale of anyone like that having a extreme challenge going on or a multi-layer challenge going on with them. So now coming back to this guy, he's getting palpitations if he's not having an affair, which 99% he's not having. Then who are the two most likely people who is going to call him then? The two very, very likely people who are going to call him are going to be now either his boss or co-workers related to work issues. And then it's very, that's why highly likely if boss and co-worker calls are giving him a palpitation or nervous response, that he's having a difficulty picking up their phone, it means something is going wrong in his workplace, and which is definitely a issue. Something definitely must be going on wrong in his workplace, where maybe unethical practices are going on that he is not supportive of, and he doesn't want to have those difficult conversations with their colleagues who are doing unethical practices. That could be the reason for his stress as well, related to work life. Because all elements of stress that can add to your stress, if you have stress, or you can have stress from just simple one thing, that I'm eating poor quality food and that's why I'm getting acid reflux, and stress from that. But you could just not simply be eating poor quality food. You could be having stress from the financial challenges you're going through. You could be having stress from the fights you're having with your wife. You could also be going through stress from the work related things you are going through. And many men do not like, many men, women, everyone doesn't really like discussing the deeper elements of their work challenges, or if they do want to discuss it also with someone, the time that will take to discuss such a challenge with someone will be a long time if that other person doesn't have any context related to any context, any depth, any maturity related to understanding workplace complexities. I do have the maturity to understand the depth. So, and I have something called anyway, let's forget about me. But what I'm saying is, he didn't discuss this in this whole thing that this life coach has picked up about him. His work related issues haven't been picked up by her, or she has picked up very minor level work issue where she has decided that this guy just needs to delegate his work to his co-workers. And I'll come to that. She has likely, taken the opinion of the wife in giving that consultant activity related to his work, and I'll come back to it in a minute. But this guy definitely has actually palpitations. If the two likely palpitation causing phone calls would be if phone calls are coming from possibly a in-law wanting to shout at him like, why are you abusing my sister or my daughter or something, that can lead to palpitations. But that also, in a 10-year marriage, most men will let it slide because they will get used to it. Because I have cousins who are like that, who will ignore even in-law calls. They will either ignore the in-law calls, or if they are hurt by in-law related comments, they will process it in some other way. But they will not have heavy many, at least most of the men I know, they just either ignore it, or they will work on it in the way they can work on it. They might vent about it to a partner, but they will not accrue the stress of a in-laws call also. In a 10-year marriage, if it was a new marriage, at that time you might get stressed. Oh my god, they are thinking I am the villain of this marriage, blah blah blah. At that time you may accrue some stress. But after 10-12 years of being married, you will know how to process in-law related challenges as well. Because if you are evolving in life, those things will not cause will not cause the stress response related issues. You would have by then already managed how to handle your in-law related challenges. Most men, I feel, if they are maturing in their marriage, maturing in their life, would develop a processing skill about it. Sometimes they will develop an unhealthy processing skill. But again, assuming this guy is a healthy guy and knows how to healthily manage his life problems, he has healthily so far managed even in-law calls, even difficult work calls. Again, if you are a mature guy, wise guy, average guy with sanity in you, balance in you, again you will know how to handle your work stressful calls as well. So the only time you will not be willing to pick up a phone call is when the situation is extremely complex situation, where really some unethical thing might be going on, or he knows that layoffs are going on in his work and he is afraid that he will have a layoff. And already he's worried about his finances, right? He has only 5,000 rupees savings every month. So even if he saves that 5,000 for even 1 year, how much will he have in that 5,000 discretionary income? If his miscellaneous expenses of another 5,000, total he's saving only, let's say, he doesn't use those miscellaneous expenses, he doesn't take a cab, he will always take a train, he stops using the cab, then he may have another 5,000 discretionary income. So total 10,000 for, even if he has saved about 10 months, is how much? 100,000, right? Or 1 lakh. So that 1 lakh is not going to be enough for his, if he loses his job, that 1 lakh will not help him, right? So that's why he's getting nervous. Financially, he's stressed out, that he knows either if unethical things are going on, then also his company will crash. If he's a wise man, even if he consciously doesn't know it, if a wise man is there, they consciously know what is going to happen next in their work life. If they are not consciously wise, even then, subtle stress will be present, because subconsciously your subconsciousness will know something is going wrong in my workplace, even if I can't pinpoint what is going wrong in my workplace, or I'm consciously not aware what the higher up in my company is doing. I know, seeing the trend that is happening, subconsciously someone might also have a stress, knowing that it is highly likely that his job market might be crashing, his job might be crashing, he might lose his job. All of these things would be subtly playing a role in his background. And he has realized that that is a problem. Because he has realized that is a problem, what he has done, the life coach has suggested to him, I don't know how deeply he discussed that with the life coach, but the life coach has given him, what did the life coach think is his work problem, based on, I feel, what his wife might have told him is, and based on how the life coach thinks. Because many women, immature women, in my opinion, I'm not that kind of immature woman, but I have many immature women relatives in my family life or friendship group and other social circle. So I know how immature women think. So many immature women think that when you are stressed, all you need is go for a vacation. But why am I, and immature men also think like that. But yes, what level stress needs a vacation? Let's discuss that now first, before I go ahead with what she has suggested and why I think that is a very wrongful suggestion made in this man's scenario. When you are in your 20s or 30s and a bachelor, not someone who is married, when you are a bachelor or a single person and in your 20s and 30s, at that time, socializing with a group of friends helps you. Socializing and going on vacation with a group of friends helps you. At that time, you're new to earth. You haven't explored many places on earth. Because you're new to earth, because you have not explored a lot of different places on earth, because you've also not understood your personality type to know what is pleasurable for you, what is fun for you. At a time in your 20s and 30s, it's a fun experience to explore with any friend group you have, any social group you have. If you're dating someone, you will do that with the person you are dating. If you are newly married also, at that time also, exploring the world seems like a very fun thing to do. And it is indeed a stress-free activity most times when you are with a right group. So, and because I have done this also in my 20s, so I know this. Like in my 20s, I went to US, and in US, I had zero, I was starting from scratch, right? I didn't have any friends when I entered the US who are friends known to me. I had one classmate who came also to US at the same time as me, but even though we were classmates in the same college in India, we never interacted or socialized that level. And even in US, despite living in the same city, despite working in two buildings that are just side by side to each other, I met that girl only one time in my life in US. So she can't be considered as my friend, right? Even though she was a past classmate. And so most of the other people who actually I considered my friends were friends who were daily involved in my life in some way, or monthly or yearly involved in my life in some way. Those people ended up becoming my friends. People from different parts of India, different parts of US, who all got the coincidental the time at which I was studying in that university, they were also studying in that university in different programs, in the same program. So some people I met via my program, some people I met via my classes, some people I met just because they are Indians. So like that I met different kinds of people who became my friends for different kinds of reasons, right? So at that time, when I'm completely new to life, I'm just a 20-year-old with no friends circle as such, very superficial friendship circle got formed. And at that time, because you don't have friends, you don't have close connections, you will hang out with whoever you end up associating your life with at that point of time. And if someone went on a trip, I went on a trip with them if they have asked me to go on a trip, or if a group of friends are sitting and discussing, let's go on a trip and do this fun activity today, we all went and did some fun activity that day. So like that you do, when you are meeting new friends, you make these kind of plans with your friends, right? And these kind of plans usually work out when you are a teenager, when you are in your 20s, when you are maybe in your early 30s, and you are married or newly married, or there is a group of people who are dating each other. They form a friendship circle, and at that time you will make all these spontaneous plans of trips, spontaneous group activities, where they can indeed be de-stressing activities, because via these activities you are building social connections, you're building emotional connections, you're making new friendships, you are exploring some old friendships also possibly sometimes. And in all of these, while you're exploring a old friendship or building a new friendship or building a old friendship's newer level of friendship, it is a de-stressing activity when everyone has the right mindset that we are building a friendship. And in that also you will see, like if you're building a friendship and there are 10 people who have gone on a trip together as a couple, or some are single, some are couples, and you have been on a trip, you will see that the group can consistently now progress in life and evolve in life as friends, and it will continue being a stress free activity with such friends, when all of you are on the same wavelength, all of you are facing some similar life challenges together, all of you are meaningfully contributing towards a friendship. Like you just don't go 1 year trips with each other, but during the rest of the year you are also contributing to each other's life meaningfully, as friends are meant to contribute to. Then only it becomes a stress free experience. Or when the trips are happening and it is happening in a place of, with the mindset of ensuring that everyone in the group gets a fair deal out of it. Like it's not just simply fairness about monetarily how much you spent on the trip, but everyone feels that they have enjoyed the trip. That's when it becomes a stress free trip. But let's say you go on a trip with a family where you are having financial challenges, everyone wants to spend like 30-40K in a trip. This guy, he doesn't have enough discretionary income to even have consider that he has half a lakh or something as a discretionary income salary with him. So if someone goes on a group trip where every person has to contribute at least 50,000 on a trip, and his wife and 4 kids, means he has to contribute at least 2 lakhs for that trip. So will it be a stress-free experience for a guy who is financially crunched at that time, or also knows in the future some heavy financial crunches might happen in my life? Will it be a stress-free trip for him? My answer is no, it's not going to be a stress-free trip. And if you have a wife or a social circle, or a wife and a social circle, and the social circle could be your group of friends, could be a family group that you are wanting to go on a trip with, whatever it is, if you have not talked about and discussed your financial challenges with them also in some way, no one needs to give details of their financial challenges, but if enough of the right things have not been said and expressed in a family group or a family setting or a friendship group about the trip expenses, what is going to happen is, while the rest of the couples or rest of the family going on the trip might have zero financial challenges, and for them spending 2 lakhs on a trip is just fun money, they don't, for them it is nothing, so they can spend 2 lakhs on such a trip. Whereas for this guy, it is a very financially crunching and stress adding factor in his life. And I have been on such trips with family where family didn't understand, depending on my social status or socioeconomic status, that a trip expense where spending certain kind of money is a higher stress adding factor to me when going on trips with them, because they didn't understand that over time. Now there was a time period that happened when I had to simply say no to going anywhere where I would be obligated to spend more than what I can afford to spend, or obligated to. I also got some physical health challenges where sometimes people also, it can also be a stressful experience where, let's say, your physical fitness has deteriorated over time because of the stress of your life or other things related to your health. At that time also, if you in your 20s had a group of rappelling and wild adventure doing friends who go for boat rides, rappelling activities, bungee jumping, those kind of activities in your 20s, they were very fun oriented people wanting all these adventure sports. While in your 20s you were involved in doing such adventure sports, but now that you're married and some of the group is still single, you will have stress hanging out with those people who want to do all these fun adventure activities that your body physically can't participate in. So it will become a stressful experience for the one who is now not physically fit enough to do these adventurous activities, or mentally fit enough to want to do these activities, or now mentally and emotionally and financially these activities seem very frivolous expenses that they can't afford to do because they don't have the discretionary income. So in all of these cases, again, there will be stress when you want to do a activity that your mindset is not ready for, your finances are not ready for, and because you might have evolved or matured in life or had some physical health challenges, it is not a safe thing for you to do. So these are so many things you have to consider when planning a vacation. Many people who are immature do not think like these things that I'm addressing in this video, and because they don't think like this, a wife will just seeing that all her friends are going on a Disney vacation adventure, she also wants to go to Disney, not thinking that they don't have the finances to go to Disney, or not thinking that right now is not the right time to go because there is a financial challenge related bad future likely looming in their future, which because she is so high level immature, the man is not ready, not even able to express that level of problems with his spouse, or they are both immature, so they have never created in the 10 years of marriage the time period to sit and talk openly about the relationship or financial or other challenges, social challenges of their life, which is why he is so stressed out. He doesn't have an outlet for. And personally, personality types like this guy, I have met some personality types who were very nervous personality types. Now those nervous personality types now happen if there are two ways in which a man will get stressed out. The one who's a nervous personality type who never talks about difficult conversations, he will be highly stressed out because he has never vented out, he has never openly expressed, he's never, or even when he expresses, he only expresses 1% of the problem zone rather than the 100% problems he needs to express. He just wants to be a nice guy. Those nice guy types get very stressed out because being the nice guy type, they don't want to, and nice girl types are also there. These nice guy and nice girl types, they don't want to openly express what is going wrong in the marriage. They don't want to openly express what is going wrong in their financial situation. They don't want to openly discuss only the right things that need to be discussed to make a marriage balanced. So they will naturally be highly stressed out. So that kind of a person who is not verbalizing what their problem zones are, they need to be coached into verbalizing their problem zones in a right way, in a balanced way, start building up the steps towards verbalizing their problem zones. Then there are others who do express, and this guy likely has expressed. That's why he said I can't do it. If he wouldn't have said I can't do it if he hadn't already had some kind of conflict related to expressing some of his problems. But those guys who do express to their wives, they can also get stressed out when there are some immaturity level things going on with their spouse, that the spouse doesn't understand and is not coming to the same wavelength as the husband, and the spouse is not understanding that going on a vacation is stress free when you have enough funds to go for. Like if it is just a financial issue, then you have to have at least enough funds to go there. If it is not just a financial issue, if it is a social status related issue where you're going with a group of friends or a group of family, and they not only will spend 2 lakhs on going on a trip, but in the trip also they have all these social etiquette related things like you have to gift each other something, or they also enjoy spending on way more than what the original trip costs are. Like if you are going, like with some of my cousins, that is what literally happens with me, which annoys me greatly, because if I have a budget also for a trip and my budget is, let's say, 1 lakh, their budget will be 1 lakh. If I invariably know that if I go on a trip with them, 1 lakh is not going to be spent on the trip. It will be 1 lakh plus another 1 lakh or 1.5 lakh that will be spent on trips with them, because they just go and do those kind of activities where extra costs will be involved. They do want that extra luxurious things. For them, that 2 lakhs is nothing to spend. But for a person who's not earning, or a person who's having some financial challenges, or whose financial future is not secure yet, for all of those people, a 2 lakh trip expense is a frivolous expense, is a stress filled experience. And just having a trip becomes a stressless aspect only because you're going on a trip with someone you love or care for. But the rest of the trip is still a stressful experience, because it's not about just going on a trip. So those immature people think just going on a trip causes you to be stress free, whereas for the mature person, a trip becomes stress free only if multiple factors are present, especially for not just a mature person but a person who has challenges in their life, where they have to look at multiple other factors related to their life before going on a trip. So that's why for me, based on this guy's problems, he was able to the life coach is feeling very proud that she finally was able to coach him into taking extra consulting work. Because what has she perceived as his problem? She has perceived his problem that he doesn't have discretionary income, so let's give him discretionary income. So which is also a very bad choice for a person going through burnout. When I went through burnout, I'll tell you, I completely shut down, and I was a single person with no financially supportive factors in my life, such that I know that if I fall, I will have to just fall on the safety net of whatever money I have saved so far. I can't just fall, and after falling I'll have someone to pick up my monetary problems and challenges. So in a way I was like a man, but in a different way. Even though I'm gender wise a woman, my life was like that I'm not going to be able to fall on. And there are many women like me who, if they fall, if they lose a job, if they quit a job, they can only live on the safety net of whatever savings they have, and which is what I have been doing for a long time. But I had to still quit my job because it was not physically possible, legally possible, financially possible. For different reasons I've quit different jobs, or not picked up different jobs for different reasons at different time points of my life. And every time I didn't pick up a job, or I quit a job, or I stopped pursuing a more financially gain filled future, is because of multiple different factors that are influencing my health. And at that time, financial health had to take the back seat, because I at least had some funds in my bank account that would help me in riding out the times when I will not have a job. And I couldn't afford to think about what I will do after that. It is a bad choice to leave the job, but I could, if I had a kid, I wouldn't have left the job. If I had a spouse, I wouldn't have left the job. But because I didn't have a kid and didn't have a spouse, at a burnout phase, you should leave a job sometimes. If the burnout is, if ethical, moral reasons are causing the burnout, you have to leave, because it's misaligned with your higher sole purpose. At that point, I have left the most recent job. I left because of ethical and moral and financially stupid reasons that the company was pursuing, which was pissing me off as well. So I was pissed off, as well as stressed out, as well as found that it is such a meaningless and purposeless job. So my next phase of life was going to be to pursue meaningful jobs. So because that was the thing God was preparing me for, I had to quit that job where unethical practices, stupid practices, financially unsavvy practices that are not aligned with this century of earthly existence practices, all of these were happening in that job. So I got completely burnt out enough that I had to quit. And I didn't pick up also any other job which were going to be unethical, which were going to be financially business unsavvy practices are there. I could see the threads of where financial unsavviness is there, or a little bit of what I called stupidity, meaning, you know, your future vision about your company is very bad. That is what I'm calling stupidity. that you may be very intellectually capable of running a company, but you don't run the company according to what is needed to be done in the present, and with in mind the future needs of that field at which you are working. So all of these things also make a business practice very stupid practice. So and I think like that I am very future, in my present whatever choices I'll be making does take into account my future as well, or someone else's future when I'm working for someone else, right? So this is how you should be working. But many people who are immature do not, they just want to live in the present. Living in the present is definitely what you should be doing, but every present choice impacts your future is something many people don't understand, don't realize, don't want to examine, which is what his wife is doing. She's not wanting to examine certain things related to their present, which will impact their future if they don't address it in the right way. And this wife is very highly likely, because I have met wives and women like this, or men also like this, who will ask their spouses or friends or partners or girlfriends or someone to take a financial challenge that they don't want to take. They will force them to take that financial challenge. So now this guy, he's burnt out. He should actually be relaxing at work, where partly she has given him one right suggestion, that at work he needs to understand how to delegate some of his work to his juniors, the work that he is meant to delegate. Because if he has, let's say, got a promotion in work, when you initially get a promotion at work, initially you don't know how to delegate your work, because you're new to that work. But after 1 year or 6 months of being in a position where you are the head of multiple people, by then you should learn the skill of understanding how to delegate. And because earlier you were the lower scale worker, that's why you were doing a lot of jobs that as that lower scale worker you have to do. But when you are at a higher level, you have to do the jobs of the higher level. That's why you have to let go of the jobs of the previous level. So the jobs of the previous level, if he doesn't let go and he doesn't delegate that which needs to be delegated to his juniors, obviously he will be stressed out at work. So if that part the coach understood and told him to delegate, excellent thing, he did that. And after he has delegated, now he gets some free time. Because he gets some free time, so now when person doesn't delegate, what happens is they will take 12 hours to do some work, where they were only meant to do 10 hours of work. 2 hours of work was supposed to be delegated to the juniors, and they are getting paid only for 9 hours. So many in Indian companies, this kind of unfairness exists. People get paid only for 8 or 9 hours of work, but they are expected to give another extra 1-2 hours, or even longer, whatever hours you want to give, the Indian companies will take from you. So that boundary setting, people need to understand that if you are getting paid for 10 hours, you should work only 10 plus maybe 5-10 minutes extra. Or occasionally, if in a year they are asking you to do some extra work without getting paid for it, that is fine. But most of the time you should be saying no. But many people, because of all these EMI related issues, because of all these payment related challenges, they think they must be the this is modern slavery that happens in India, where people think if they do not do this extra work, they will lose their job, when the reality is you will only lose your job if you don't do the extra work in a downturn phase. And in the downturn phase, if you're giving extra work, or in a crunch time phase when you are asked to give some extra work, that is okay. But when you are repeatedly asked to give extra work but not paid for it, you are exhausting yourself, and your company is never going to pay for the health challenges. These challenges that he is facing, they are multi-level health challenges that the company is never going to compensate him for any of these things. That's why self-care is important, self-respect is important, understanding the field in which you're working is important. Also understanding the lifestyle choices you want to maintain in your life is also very much crucial thing people need to examine in their 30s and 40s or 50s, when this problem that has happened is a problem zone of 30s to 50s people who will go through these challenges at their work, where sometimes there are some people and stupidity is involved there also. Some people do not understand when to say no. Like this life coach doesn't know how to say no to a client that she doesn't have the capacity to actually help at a deeper level. I feel she doesn't. Like the music also she has put, everything related to this video shows that she doesn't have the mental and mature capacity to understand his challenges at the deeper level. And if she doesn't even understand his challenge at the deeper level, do you think she will have the capacity to give a solution that she doesn't even understand is a problem? She and the life coach's age looking at her, or if not the physical age, her mental age is a teenager's or a 20-30-year-old woman's mental age makeup. She could be a 50-year-old but still have the mental immaturity or emotional immaturity of a 20-30-year-old, where she thinks going on vacation is pleasurable for everyone. And many men and women in this modern world exist with this stupid paradigm, thinking just going on vacation solves your problem. Just going on vacation doesn't solve your problem if your problems have deeper things going on. So those deeper things also need to be understood. Going on the right vacation, taking the right resting and relaxing phase helps your problem. So for this guy to de-stress, he needed a vacation. He needed some extra time, which he has managed to get by delegating his work to the appropriate level. Now if he has delegated the work to the appropriate level, he got some extra time. Because he got some extra time, now on maybe Saturdays he's going and doing some visiting faculty or consulting work. These kind of work he can do while he's doing this visiting faculty consulting work. At a time when he's doing this ancillary work, he's getting some extra pay. So now instead of having 5,000 as a discretionary income, maybe he's getting 20-30,000 as depending on how much money he's making. He will at least be making another 10,000 more at a extra salary. So he's getting at least minimum 10,000 extra salary, so which is great for him. But if he is getting burnt out also from overwork, and he doesn't take the time to de-stress, relax, enjoy rest of the right kind, enjoy just thinking related rest, enjoy just physical body related rest, enjoy even financial spending related rest, his stress will not go away. So he actually needed a staycation or a vacation where he should send his wife for a vacation or his family for a vacation, while he just chills at home on a Saturday and Sunday and does nothing and vegetates at home. This is the kind of vacation this guy actually needs. Not the vacation where he spends 1 lakh on himself or others, but a vacation where he gets to spend nothing on anything. That whole vacation should be funded by his wife, because I'm pretty sure his wife is someone who is spending money on vacations, or who has her own set of income. Because if he is really realistically staying in Mumbai, it is very likely that the wife also spends some of her salary. The wife is also a earning wife. Very few wives in Mumbai are non-earning. I personally feel at least 60-70% of women in Mumbai, Navi Mumbai or bigger cities usually have women either earning full time, or they have some part time income earnings. Those kind of women usually exist in major cities, because you just can't afford to spend on finances related to home caretaking without both couples earning in bigger cities of India. And at those time points, either the wife might be like a teacher at home, teaching students from home, or doing a part-time work somewhere, or doing some online work, or having a full-time profession as well. All these three is the most likely scenario he has in his life. And because such kind of women only have these dreams and expectations of going on extravagant vacation, without realizing that while the woman might be having a half part-time job, or the women, while the man has only 5,000 rupees extra as a discretionary income, his wife might be having 20,000 as a discretionary income. And if that imbalance is there, if the wife is not investing a lot of care and caretaking time in taking care of family related issues, and there also she's expecting equal level of contribution from the husband, then some additional stress will be there. See, stress happens to us also when we are in a imbalanced relationship, where what both partners need to put in terms of caretaking, finances, has to have a equitable balance in it, or a meaningful balance where 1 month he should have 5,000 discretionary income, the next month she could have 20,000 discretionary income, and they should flip that. 1 month he should have 20,000 discretionary income, next month she should have 5,000 discretionary income. Because some of these expenses, firstly, when I looked at his expenses, if this was the real expense of just one family's where only the man is paying, this is a very imbalanced expenditure profile. Because in this, why it was an imbalanced expenditure profile is because if this was really just the whole family's expenses, then this is an imbalanced profile. Because you shouldn't be spending, he was spending 75k plus 30k total, not 30k, I'll say 75k was his housing loan expense, then other loans were 20k. So all loan related expenses taking up major part of his salary, which shouldn't be happening. Why should you be spending so much on all these major loans that has got a future benefit? If you're not the present benefit of some of these might not be there. In a car the present benefit might be there, but for many Mumbai like homes there's a future benefit. You don't get to have the home in your hand until you paid off majority of the loan. So sometimes it's a future benefit. So at that point of time, should you be taking that expense on your plate is something people should think about. Should you be having a 70 when your salary is only 1.65 lakhs, should you be spending nearly half of your salary on a housing loan? Could you live with your parents instead, and instead invest that money in repairing your parents' home in such a way that you have a benefit there? That some people could think. Some people could think the locality that you are choosing for such a housing, is that locality the appropriate locality? Maybe you could go for a different locality where you may not have to spend so much. Or if the wife is also earning, then why is the wife not paying a little bit towards the EMI as well? She should also be paying towards the EMI. Or when he is paying for a 20k on a car, do you really need a car? In a city like Mumbai, you do not usually need a car. People look at people living in America or some other developed countries movies, and they think, oh, having a car is such a luxurious thing, such a fancy thing, such a useful thing. When the reality is, in a city like Mumbai, having a car is not a fancy or realistically needed thing. People who live in US and live in Mumbai like cities, like people who live in New York or San Francisco, do not usually use their car at all. Or when they in New York, people don't even buy cars. That's why very few people buy cars. And in San Francisco, those people who do buy cars live in those parts of San Francisco where public transportation might be a little slower. And I lived in a city of US where public transportation was such that just to do my grocery, I will have to take 2 hours of just going time and then coming time from a grocery shopping expense. Especially when you are a student and you can't afford a $30-40 cab ride. Like my grocery itself is a $30 grocery. For getting $30 grocery, I can't go and spend $30 on a cab ride or 2 cab rides. So can I spend double the amount if my or the same amount as if my grocery usually used to be 30 to 100 within $100? So if my grocery is within $100, within $30 to $60 at that time, and I don't have that much income, only that I will be spending more than $100 a week on grocery, that will be a high expense. If I'm spending more than 100, even more than 50 would be a high expense for a student with lower income. So at that time I can't afford to spend $60 on a cab ride. So instead of spending 60, 65, 70, that would be the amount I would have to spend on a cab ride. Instead, I will, if I spend only $5 on a train ride, or a train ride that is subsidized for students, those kind of train rides I would have to do. Even then, it would take me 2 hours to do grocery. Not 2 is the minimum hours. It would usually take me 3 hours to do grocery using these train rides. So at that time, what is the wiser move? You are not going to, you will have to buy a car at that time. If after saving for a while, after struggling for a while, 1-2 years of struggling and using public transport, while you were saving some money, you eventually buy a second hand car. That is what many students do when they are at a lower socioeconomic status, poorer level. You are not buying a car simply because you want to show off to people. You're buying a car because it's a necessity for you to have a car, and it's a more struggling phase for you when you don't have a car. That's why you end up buying a car. But in cities like majors, and in San Francisco and in New York, having a car is more of an expense. That's why people stopped buying cars in New York. In San Francisco, having a car is more of an expense in congested parts of the city. Again, those areas people don't buy a car. Whereas other parts of California, where car can still be a necessity, people do end up buying 1 or 2 or 3 cars depending on the family size. Okay, but again, there also, if your finances are crunching, if your job loss is going to happen, do you need that extra car? Do you need that fancy car? Do you need a car at all? Is also a question he should be asking himself, because that is a question that will help him with his future. Because if he knows, if he is having palpitations from work calls, and there is something jholjal going on in his work, where some major thing is coming up in his work that might crash his work life or cause him to lose a job, or even if not, if that will happen to which jobs, those jobs that are inevitably going to go away. If not that, he might have to now tighten the belt and do more work if layoffs happen, and more work will be given to him. At that time also he will be stressed out. So at that time, all these realities of his life, he has to be having a marriage where he can discuss these challenges with his wife. Because if he hasn't created a marriage where he can discuss these challenges with his wife, he doesn't have a wife who will bend and flow and adjust that right now, because of these challenges, I shouldn't be stressing him out about a vacation. That kind of a relationship and life coach also needs to be in their pocket to help them navigate the challenge they are happening. Because if the life coach or a therapist or a marriage counselor doesn't understand that if the economy is going to crash, or if their job loss is going to happen, or if for a life coach or a therapist or a financial coach, those financial coaching just doesn't mean keep getting income. You can keep getting income when the economy is going in a upward trend. But right now, economy is actually in a downward trend, in a slow phase, in a lagging phase. In the economically lagging phases, slow phases, downward trends, that subconsciously you will be picking up that economy is going in a downward trend. You have to adjust in a very different way, financially manage in a very different way, financially at that time. And if you keep assuming this is still going to be an upward swinging economy, you are living in a misperceived understanding of what is good financial savvy health. When the indicators of poor financial savviness happening, or economic downturns imminent in the future, is showing up already. In this guy's EMI loan itself thing, in Mumbai, finding a 1 crore, 1.5 crore housing itself is a very difficult thing currently. Plus the banking sectors, 8.5, 9.5% interest rates are unrealistic. Plus many people, this 1.65 lakh salary is salary of people in their 40s in Mumbai. That too, people who are really good workers, who are in some moderate high level positions in their companies, they get 1.765 lakh salary. So most other people have much lesser salary than 1 lakh. So if your housing market, if your loans market is at a unrealistic rate, giving loans and giving housing at a unrealistic rate, you are not going to have there is no question that economic downturn will happen in the future. Because it's not sustainable. Is it sustainable? If this guy gets divorced, he can't pay the housing loan, so his loan is going to go away, the bank will have a loss, everything will have a loss. A loss will only happen. So a downturn, and like that, if multiple people have job losses. So do you see how the housing market crashed in US? I don't know how deeply the details of how a housing market crashed in US, because I didn't economically study it. But I was a business student, and my business wisdom tells me, and my intuition about economy tells me, something is economically going in the upward trend when you have supported things to make it go in the upward trend. Whereas something goes in a downward trend when all the things supporting something is taking you towards a unsustainable lifestyle. And this problem this guy is facing is actually a problem of many middle class men and women. And in a downward economy, every middle class person has to first become realistic that a downward economy has started. Those who are wise enough to understand that first will also start understanding how to work with a downward economy. And first thing with a downward economy you have to work with is cut down your frivolous expenses. And it is a frivolous expense if he has a car that he's not using most of the time. It is a frivolous expense if he is paying a loan and he's paying majority of the financial things. If his wife, despite earning similar to him or even earning half than him, but her contribution to the finances is much lower, or not only is her contribution to the finance much lower, if she is the kind of wife who wants to constantly spend, because it's highly stressful to be I hate being with those men and women who constantly want to spend and assume that always a upward trend of economy will be there. And I literally do hate the hate word I'm using. I don't hate it in a negative vicious way, but the hate that is necessary to understand that these kind of personalities can't be my spouse, can't be my brothers, can't be those social support systems I need when I am in a downward trend. Because at that time when you are in a downward trend, what kind of people do you need in your life? People who understand you are in a downward trend, who will support you. If they don't have finances to support you, they will support you psychologically and emotionally about your downward trend. Or if you are in a downward trend, you have those kind of spouses and families who understand, because you're in a downward trend, I can't expect you, while I am earning a high income, I can't expect you to spend like lakhs of money on something which you don't have the money to spend on. Or if you do spend on it, it will be a very foolish and frivolous expense for you to do, and you will go more into debt and your life will crash even further. So do you understand? This is what he needs. He needs a life coach counseling or a marriage counseling also, where his wife also needs to be sit down with the realities of life. What are you going to do if as a result of the stress that is going on in his life, or the other work related conditions that he can't talk about, maybe because some corporate secrets are there that he can't talk about. Despite that, he knows his job is going to be at a he might lose his job in the next few years. What will you do if he loses the job? Are you ready to cut down your expenses? Because she needs to tighten the belt, he needs to tighten the belt. Keeping that in mind, also wisdom is in that understanding when to tighten your spending also, and not go overboard with your spending. Spend where you need to spend. She has given him a right place to spend, which is nutritional support. Understanding what will be nutritionally supportive of his health when he has acid reflux. If his acid reflux and stresses and waking up in the morning is happening from 5 causes, and one cause is root causes from food and nutritional challenges, then his food and nutritional challenges have to be looked into. Now, this is also the universe preparing him for a downward trend also, that if he has a good marriage, now whether he has what level of immaturity his wife has, I don't know. Whether his wife will wake up in the future to what needs to happen in their marriage, I don't know, because her mentality is only present in the fact that she forced him to go on a vacation. I wouldn't have forced a husband like this to go on a vacation if he is highly stressed out about finances and having nervous system breakdowns at 3 o'clock in the morning. At that time you need a rest at home. You don't need to go and party and show off with friends and show Facebook picture or Instagram pictures related to, oh, I had this fun. No, you don't need to do that. You need to sit at home and relax. You need to, that 1 lakh you spent on going on a vacation, maybe you could have gone to a spa, an Ayurvedic spa, and taken a 1 week retreat in a spa and relaxed in a spa instead, where they'll provide you the food, they'll provide you the nutrition, they'll provide you the relaxation. That 1-2 lakhs of vacation time that they spend to show off for their friends should have been for relaxing their body, relaxing their health. But many people don't do that. They just want to keep up with the Jones, keep up with the perception that everything in life is always going to expand financially. When everything doesn't expand financially, it's a law of life that everything that expands will contract someday. everything that you have expanded a lot will need to also contract a lot sometimes. Every expense that you are building towards, certain expenses will always be building, like students, the children's schooling right now is 30K. In the future it will be lakhs of student loans related things also will be happening. So what will you have to do? You have to plan your kids also about it, that if I can't afford to pay for your schooling, you may have to go and do free schooling somewhere. Find a schooling where you are getting you have to be good in your studies also, so that you can get a scholarship to study somewhere. My dad put that realistic expectation in me. He had actually the finances to pay for my education, because he did pay for my brother's education. So he could have paid a little bit more for my education as well, which is again another problem Indian families have. The girls' education will be paid for less. These things also happen. These are all the places which will also add to your nervous system breakdown if you are being discriminatory towards financially towards other people in your life as well. Like if he has some parents who are elderly and aged, and he needs to also look after their health, but all the time he's only focused on looking at the wife's health and wife's needs, but he's never in the 10 years of marriage even given 5% thought towards his parents' health. That will also cause him to be having a nervous system breakdown. But as I said, in all of these things that is unfolding in his life, universe is actually setting him up for a downturn. How well he will manage the downturn, and a downturn and a breakdown, because burnout starts happening to those whose downturn and breakdowns are imminent in their future. It doesn't happen to those who have a lot of health supportive conditions, a lot of financially supportive conditions, a lot of very understanding family and friends around them. They don't get experience burnout. Burnout is experienced by people who invest a lot more, but are getting invest a lot more emotionally, thoughtfully, financially, while a balance is not there in their life. So his burnout is imminent. His burnout is in this whole story is a burnout story, and a unfairness related lifestyle history story, and a story where part of it he also has a role to play. So if he gets a job loss now, which he is going to get, I am guaranteed 90% sure he's going to have a job loss. If not a job loss, his salary is not going to increase in the next 5 or 10 years. So if his or whatever salary he will have increase, it will just go away in his kids' expenses, because he has a wife who wants to spend, not spend wisely, or not spend understanding the reality of their life. So these are the three trajectories that are very likely for this guy. So the first trajectory is he will do consulting work. He will not have a increased salary. Whatever consulting related work he is doing, that is now going to go towards his kids' higher education, right? But which will not solve his stress problem. His stress problem will still remain. Why? Because he doesn't have an understanding wife. He has created a life where just spending is the norm of his life, not understanding what is balanced spending. That's why he will continue having stress. But if he has this life, this is the best possible outcome if he doesn't change the right places where his wife, his spendings all need to change. If it doesn't happen, this will be the neutral possible, easiest possible life for him, which won't be an easy life, but this is the easiest possible life circumstance God can give him, given that he and his wife are not ready to address the real problems. Secondly, if this is the easiest possible, if he has accrued good karma, this will be the life he will have. If he has accrued some bad karma, or if he is himself a very shady personality who has got stuck with other shady personalities at his work, or if he's in a business field where a lot of shady activities are currently going on, which are not going to be sustainable in the future, his business life or his work life will crash and he will have a job loss. At that time, then what he will have to do, he will have to depend on his discretionary income, which will not be enough for the wife's quest for getting more and more, and then his marriage might also crash. That will be the worst outcome that will happen to him. In the worst outcome, he loses his job. He has only a consultant work. The salary that will be maybe 50,000 or 1 lakh maximum. When he has lost his job, he can maximum have a 1 lakh salary based on the work he is doing. But that 1 lakh will not be enough, because now he has done what? If he was, earlier getting at least 30-40,000 from his consulting work, he was getting 2 lakh salary. So the wife is used to a husband with a 2 lakh salary, and here now the husband has only 50,000 or 1 lakh salary. So if he has only quarter or half of the salary he had earlier, she is easily, possibly she is not spending, she's only spending, like, let's say half of her salary or 1/3 of her salary in the work and in the marriage and in the children's expenses. She will invariably divorce him, because she will be frustrated. He's not spending, he's not contributing financially. She is also wanting constantly to keep up with the Joneses with her friends and social groups or on social media. So she will definitely quit him for a guy who's richer. And she's also possibly that practical minded woman who doesn't care, like, how rich, she doesn't care and value about the good things his husband was bringing in her life. Then in that worst case scenario, his marriage will also crash and his life will crash. But it will be a crash helpful for him, because if that happens, even though it will be a worst case scenario in the eyes of the world, it will be the best case scenario for him in a 10-year future timeline, because then he will have a life where the wife is gone, the constant, take from him will be gone. That itself will reduce his stress, and he will observe that now, even though he has half his salary or quarter his salary, he has much more peace in his life. He doesn't have to spend so much. And if she has married a richer man, well and good, because while he will be heartbroken for 4-5 years, he might be heartbroken for 4-5 years, he'll be crying that his kids are gone and all of those things, if he was a good dad. And she will also possibly be a narcissistic person, not allowing him to see his kids. Those kind of things also might end up happening. I'm telling a worst case scenario, not for this guy, but any guy in similar circumstance like this, where the wife is the way I'm describing, because his wife is like this or not is dependent on multiple factors. And this is a worst case scenario factor of a guy and a wife, where the guy is too much of a giver and a wife is too much of a taker. That is the worst case scenario. And then she will marry someone rich, so that rich person will contribute towards the children's schooling, everything, and all his financial stress will be gone. And why will he manifest that life? He will manifest that life because he didn't have the courage to say no to expenses that he didn't want, or that could have been like his children. If his salary has gone down, don't need to study in a private school at that time. They can study temporarily in a government school. It looks outside in the society, it may look like a very weird thing, but I've studied in a government school, so I know it is not a bad deal to study in a government school. If you want to excel in life, you can study in a government school and also excel in life. Of course, in my life right now, I am not I'm excellent in life in a way that is different from what is perceived as excellence. For me, it is the kind of excellence I want to cultivate in my life. That's why only I've had the life experiences I have had in my life. So excelling in life, if you are modeling your excellence of life with regards to the fancy car you will possess, or a fancy home you will have, or the elite socialites you will hobnob with, that excellence is not the true excellence. It becomes a true excellence if in that pursuit of that also you had brought a lot of real life experience based excellence in your life. So and about the eliteness of life, maybe I'll make a different video to clarify what I'm saying here. But if you're just chasing it for money purposes, monetary gain, or seeing someone else's some glimpse of happiness that you think is the only happiness possible in life, that is not true happiness. True happiness comes from many things, and this guy's true happiness will come if his wife leaves him and his marriage crashes, and if half of his expenses gets cut down and he ends up going and freelancing at jobs that don't give him stress, don't give him conscientious palpitations when phone calls are happening from job. So that will be actually to the outside world, it will be a bad thing happening to him, whereas internally to him it will be a good thing if his wife leaves and all this worst case scenario happens. Then, so after examining the best case scenario from the world's perspective was the first scenario. Second scenario is best case scenario for the guy's future health perspective. but the worst case scenario that the world will be thinking is happening to him, and he also will be thinking for 5-10 years after the wife leaves that a worst case scenario happened. But eventually in his future, if he matures up, if he understands the value of what happened to him, it will be the best case scenario for him. And then there is an ideal best case scenario where that can also unfold in a marriage where both are actually loving and caring towards each other, both have started developing and evolving in life, started developing and maturing in life, to understand the value of difficult conversations, to understanding the value of saying no, to understanding that when downturns happen, why the downturns are happening. If they both develop a good couple's maturity level about that, then even if he loses a job, that marriage will not break. Even if he doesn't do the job but he stops contributing so much financially, and she starts balancing financially while he takes some rest and starts focusing more on house and child caretaking activities instead, because this is the higher purpose of anyone in a good marriage facing these same challenges. The higher purpose of anyone in a good marriage facing these financial, socioeconomic, work stress related, housework stress related challenges comes when gender activities and gender roles have also got to be switched in a partnership. Now that partnership which switches the gender roles effectively, who understands that the gender roles now need to shift in my family life in a way aligned with what is happening in my partners and my life, work life, because there could be another couple where the wife and husband both are pouring equally into the finances, both are caring and loving parents towards their children, both want to make the best decisions for their children and their family life, but now outside circumstances are such that they can't make the optimal fancy decisions that they were making earlier. But because love is present, because understanding is present, because they understand that maybe the wife's job might be progressing in such a way that she will have, now earlier she had 1 lakh salary, she can get a promotion in life where she gets a 2 lakh salary, whereas the guy loses his job and now his salary will only be 1 lakh. But because they are a balanced partnership, now it is the woman's turn to spend 1.65 lakhs a month or 2 lakhs a month in the family expenses, whereas the man now gets to rest and not spend 1 lakh salary, but he now, like how the wife earlier when she had 1 lakh salary, maybe she was spending only 50-60,000 in the family's expenses, and she had discretionary 40,000 income, so that discretionary, or 20,000 income or something like that she had. So that extra income that she used to have earlier, now it's his turn, so he gets to only spend 60,000, 70,000, and 20 to 40,000 he gets to save for himself and his discretionary expenses, whereas she now gets to take the majority burden, where she is now spending 1.6 lakhs, 1.7 lakhs in the family expense. That can also happen. That is the ideal situation in a happy marriage, in a marriage where both partners understand and awaken to what is their higher life purpose related to the circumstances they are facing. And also, if that higher income is not happening to the wife, if it happens such that both are now at similar income level, like he has 1 lakh income, she has 1 lakh income. Earlier, if the wife was only spending 40,000 and he was spending 1,60,000, so total they were spending 2 lakhs. Now that total 2 lakhs they both have to spend. They will not have discretionary income, or they will have only discretionary income when they are able to let go of some luxuries, which could be like, when I say the wife is contributing 70 or 50,000 or something to the finances, where is she contributing? The 20,000 that this family spends on groceries is just the basic bare bone grocery bill, possibly, of the guy going and getting home cleansing agents, going and getting some dal and chawal from the market, whereas from the DMart like place or something. Whereas what is the wife spending on? While the man is spending on these basic groceries from DMart, she's also spending on groceries, but she's spending on groceries like going and getting the vegetable shopping done, or she's also spending on household things like buying furniture, linen, and kids clothing. So her 50-60,000 is going in house and home caretaking related and grocery related purchases, Well, those are also necessary purchases. Kids school clothes need to be purchased, kids school and outside activity clothes and shoes and other things need to be purchased. House needs to be maintained, so once in at least 5 or 10 years you might need some new linen also for the home. She might be spending money on the repair of many, because this guy, nothing related to repairs have been shown here, but sometimes repair or maintenance costs are there related to cleaning your bathrooms, repair of your bathrooms, repair of your kitchen, repair of faucets that are not working, repair related to refrigerator or filtration systems. All of these repair and maintenance work is also there, which he may be spending on it maybe 5,000, but she might be spending 30,000 on that as well. So you don't know where the wife is spending, and it is not possible for a modern wife of her kind to not be spending on anything that is not common joint family expenses. Or she could also be spending during, like many men have, don't even, they are so busy just spending the basic necessities, they don't look at the gifting related things also. So she could be the one spending, like while he is spending 75k on all the expenses related to just their housing loan, she could also be spending 75k, but in birthday activities of, there are 10 friends whose birthdays they are attending, so 10, 20, 30,000 goes in the birthday related gifting that she's doing. Another 20, 30,000 could be going for festival time related gifting that she's doing. So she could also have, like, if not monthly expense, occasional expenses where she does invest 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 or her entire salary on other activities as well, that the husband is not looking at as a monthly expense, but that is a yearly expense. She could be spending on yearly expenses, she could be spending on long term expenses, she could also be spending a lot of, she could also have a, if she's a balanced wife, she would also have a 10,000 only discretionary, or 10, 20,000 maximum as a discretionary income. Whereas if she's not a balancing wife, she is only spending half of her salary and the other half is just going in some investments. But that is the time now her investments also now need to be accounted for and used for the family's expenses when he doesn't have a salary and he didn't get to spend and invest on something. But this can happen when men will let go of the belief system that they have to take all the financial obligation, when men will allow their wife also take the financial obligations, but not in a taker way then, because there are men who allow the wife to take all the financial obligations. In another scenario, the wife could also be equally giving into the marriage or giving more into the marriage too, and that's why she could also be stressed out, and her stress level, she also needs life coach therapy, she also needs therapist to understand where to cut down expenses or manage with the expenses they have, with the salary they have currently, or understand that if downturn happens, how to manage all of these things. She also has stress about, and she also needs life coach and therapy and marriage counseling about, which they need jointly to do if they are a good couple wanting to stay together, couple wanting to be in a long term healthy marriage. They have to build towards that kind of a life, which if a therapist and life coach only looks at, in this scenario, only looks at one spouse's things and not considering the other spouse's things, or is considering only the other spouse thing, that the other spouse wanted some extra vacation time, she wants to spend time with her husband, and this again, this life coach is likely a very single woman also. So she thinks that if you are married or if you are in a relationship, you will constantly go on vacation, like all these movies and people's social media profile makes you think that that is what makes the marriage fun, but that is not how a marriage actually becomes fun. A marriage actually becomes fun at the true sense when you know how to ride the ups and downs in the right way. That's when the marriage is truly fun in the true sense. The other kind of fun that happens can happen when you have some extra luxurious things going on in your life, when you have worked towards that luxury. I don't find it fun every year going on vacation. I find it fun every year going on vacation when it is a vacation of the right health supportive kind, when it might be the vacation of the right financial supportive kind, when it is a vacation with people I enjoy spending time with, when it is a vacation I work towards, like 4 years I spent on saving for that vacation.